Now, of course, all the headlines are dominated by Brexit at the moment, but actually yesterday there was some very serious and some very welcome news on the economy and about investment in public services when the Chancellor announced his comprehensive spending review. There's an additional £13.4 billion going into our essential public services. That's the fastest growth in 15 years. 6.2% increase in the Home Office budget, enabling us to recruit these 20,000 additional police officers. We've already announced the £34 billion additional going into the health service, the biggest increase in 70 years, upgrades of hospitals. But there's also really welcome news about an additional £30 million going into the clean air strategy, £54 million going into homelessness, and lots of other important issues that affect our day-to-day lives. Now, amongst all that really good news, the one I welcome most of all is the additional £14 billion going to our schools. This is something that I've been campaigning on together with my West Sussex colleagues for the last few years. School funding is probably the number one issue for my constituents, and for too long I'm afraid schools in West Sussex have been too far near the bottom of the pile. That is going to change. What that additional £14 billion means is an additional £2.6 billion next year, £4.8 billion the following year, and £7.1 billion the year after that. So we are going to get to a point very soon where the minimum funding for primary school pupils in our schools will be at least £4,000 per child, and in our secondary schools £5,000 a child. Now that's the levelling up that the Prime Minister talked about, and that most advantages areas like us where we've been at the bottom of the pile. Now those sorts of increases are the increases that our heads, our governors and parents have been calling for over the last few years, and I hope now they will really welcome this good news. But what's really welcome as well is the fact that it's a 3-year settlement. It's not just a year-on-year finding out what the figures are. This gives some stability for the next 3 years at least. And within those figures, there's an additional £1.5 billion going to fund the teachers' pension fund increases. That's been a major concern for our schools. We're also increasing very significantly the starting salaries for teachers. By 2022, the starting salary for a teacher will be some £30,000. I'm also concerned about special education needs schools. And again, an extra £700 million is going into special educational needs, another £400 million going into further education as well. And there's also a major investment in the Youth Investment Fund. This is really good news for our kids and our pupils in West Sussex schools. And I hope that heads and governors will help publicise that to all the parents who I know have been concerned about future funding for their schools, which has now been secured.